Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Zheng, a student from State Key Lab of Computer Science, Institute of Software, Chinese Academy of Sciences. What I'm sharing today is multi-solvent stains on textile, a novel method to simulate complex stain effects on textile. In daily life, we wear various styles of clothing, but they all have one thing in common. They are very easy to be contaminated and form stains of various shapes. In this paper, we use a model called Dual-Stage Solvents Model (DSSM) to simulate the various stain effects shown above, especially when multiple stains are mixed together. This model is based on the triple layer model TLM, a more general model. We demonstrated that various effects, such as oil-water stain mixing or alcohol-water stain mixing, can be simulated correctly first ever. We listed some new contributions in our work. First, a novel dual-stage solvents computational model is proposed to simulate the miscible or immersible diffusion effect of multiple liquids on the fabric. Second, an effective algorithm to calculate multi-solvent interface in the knitted structure. Third, correct simulation of stain particle retention and offset effects is achieved, in consistence with the real diffusion process on the corresponding surface. If you want to simulate the diffusion effect of stains on the fabric, you must first understand the yarn structure and the weaving method that make up the fabric. On the left side of the first row, we show a real yarn under the observation of a magnifying glass showing the structural characteristics. You can see the artificial woven structure on the surface of the yarn, as well as the single thread protruding around. We call it fibers. On the left side of the first row, an abstract yarn section is presented. Since a yarn is bundled by many fibers, it forms a weaving effect with a tight center and a loose peripheries. In the second line of the picture, we show a twill weave fabric and its result expressed in grid form. The white nodes represent the warp structure that can be seen from the front of the fabric, and the gray nodes represent the weft structure that can be seen. In view of the complex weaving structure of the yarn, it cannot be constructed by traditional geometric modeling methods. So we started from the structure density of the yarn and constructed a model with three-layer features. The three-layer model includes the transition layer of the outer hairy layer, the occlusion layer of the yarn surface shell, and the transport layer with a pore structure that can transmit liquid. Because the raw material and the weaving structure of the yarn are not the same, it also has a different three-layer structure. In this picture, we show the cotton yarn and its three-layer model, as well as the polyester yarn and the three-layer model. The two have a great difference in the structure due to the large difference in the length of the yarn fiber. When the liquid comes into contact with yarn and completes the wetting process, the liquid spreading along the tubular void in the yarn structure is called in-yarn diffusion. The main factors affecting in-yarn diffusion are the free movement of the liquid in the yarn segment and the fluid flow driven by the capillary pressure gradient force. First, let's see how to measure the maximum liquid content of a yarn. The following formula determines the maximum amount of liquid that can be contained in a yarn segment. Metri etal, where WH represents the maximum liquid that can be accommodated in a yarn segment. Phi is the porosity of the fabric. Rho L is the density of the liquid, and Rho S is the density of the fiber. Phi, Rho L, and Rho S can be obtained from the textile science by looking up data. The capillary pressure formula calculates the pressure formed by the fluid in the capillary tube. Gamma is the liquid surface tension. R is the inner radius of the fiber tube. Theta is the contact angle. Darcy's law is an equation that describes the flow of a fluid through a porous medium and calculates the flow rate of phi. Here L is the length of the tube. Mu is the dynamic fluid viscosity. R is the radius of the tube radius. K is the permeability of a porous material. With the core knowledge of a liquid-yarn interaction, we can calculate transport of staying liquid in woven textiles and the diffusion of liquid textiles, which are controlled by capillary pressure difference. Combining the above formula and the three-layer model, we can simulate the effect of fluid infiltration and diffusion in the fabric. In our lives, there are a lot of substances that can dye and pollute fabrics. How to simulate the diversity of dyeing substances is the goal of our research. First, look at our comparative experiment. In this group of experiments, we are divided into two groups, A and B. Among them, the A group uses the oil-water stain mixture, and the B group uses the alcohol-water stain mixture. From the experiment, we can see the very different pollution effect. In the A group of experiments, the two solvents formed a clear diffusion boundary effect during diffusion process. In the B group experiment, the two solvents merged with each other, which also resulted in the mixing of dyes. The research of chemical science shows that this is caused by the difference in the chemical properties of the two solvents, and it can also be regarded as like solutions like. How to quantify compatibility between two solvents? The scientific research of the predecessors gave the method. We use Hansen model to calculate the mutual solubility. Hansen model divides the solubility energy into three parts. They are dispersion as dD, polarity as dP, and hydrogen bonding as dH. These three terms are treated as vectors to form a three-dimensional space. According to Hansen's model, the interaction between the two solvents becomes evaluable. Three Hansen solubility parameters of two solvents are used to calculate the HSP distance RAB. If the distance RAB is less than the interaction radius as R0, the two solvents are miscible, and vice versa. Here, the miscibility DAB of the two solvents is determined by the formula. Therefore, if the DAB of the two solvents is calculated to be closer to 0, the more compatible. Table 1 in the paper, we have listed the compatibility values of two different solvents and water solvents. If two solvents are fused together, what happens when they are mixed? The answer to the question is the surface tension of the mixed solvent will change. In chemical studies, Guangzheng et al. Gave a formula for the surface tension change of mixed solvents. In the formula, A, B, C, and D are constants. X is equal log X, where X is the mole fraction. It can be seen from the figure on the right that the surface tension formed by the mixing of different solvents will change in different ways. According to the above research, the calculation of the surface tension change between two miscible solvents can be simplified to a linear calculation that changes with the concentration of the mixed solvent. In the above figure, we use grid to represent the mixing calculation process between two solvents. The upper line represents the diffusion motion of the respective solvents in their respective calculation grid. The lower line represents the final mixed calculation effect, showing the calculation results of the two solvents mixed. Unlike the TLM model, we need to independently calculate the diffusion of each solvent on the fabric, and in different yarn grids, calculate the tension and viscosity of the mixed solvent, and the diffusion of different dye particles between different solvents. On this page, we show a demo effect. In this demo, we simulated the mixing effect between two miscible solvents, and since the two solvents have the same surface tension, the surface tension of the mixed solvent does not change during the mixing process. On this page, we also present the demo of the mixing and the diffusion experiment between two miscible solvents. But unlike the previous experiment, in this experiment, the surface tension between the two solvents is not the same. Therefore, when the two solvents are mixed, the tension of the mixed solvent also changes, and according to the capillary pressure formula, the change of tension can affect the capillary pressure and the diffusion effect of the fluid. So the final stain shape is different from the previous demo. Previously, we discussed the mixed diffusion between miscible solvents. Now, let us discuss the mixed diffusion between immiscible solvents. Unlike the diffusion and the mixing between miscible solvents, the diffusion between immiscible solvents will form a clear boundary, and the two solvents will gradually form an equilibrium state of capillary pressure at the boundary. So calculating the shape of the boundary is the key to simulating this effect. In the process of solvent diffusion, due to dynamic processes such as solvent flow and evaporation, the boundary formed is dynamic. The above figure shows this dynamic process. In order to calculate the microscopic boundary formed by the diffusion of the two solvents in the yarn, we adopted a multi-sampling calculation method, performed multiple calculations at the mixed boundary, and mixed the calculated results as the final result of the node perform output. Through this method, we avoid the complicated interface calculation process. Through the above calculations, in the experimental demo between insoluble solvents, three phenomena can be seen. First, the formation of clear boundaries. Second, the boundary shifting effect due to the dynamic changes of the solvent. Third, when the boundary of the solvent moves, a local subtle dyeing effect remains. These three effects increase the realism of the simulation. We also conducted simulation and comparison experiments for real scenes. In this comparative experiment, we set up two sets of solvents. The first set of experiments tested the diffusion effect of immiscible solvents. The solutes were red and blue dyes, and the solvents were all water. The second set of experiments tested the diffusion effect of immiscible solvents. The solutes were red and black dyes, and the solvents were water and methanol. In the simulation experiment, we set the surface tension, viscosity, color fastness, and other physical parameters similar to the real solvent data for the diffusion model. It can be seen from the results that our simulation model can obtain a simulation calculation effect that is closer to the real experiment. We also compared with Zheng 2019 due to the expansion of the TLM model proposed by it. The calculation of the tension of the mixed solvent and the calculation of the immiscible interface are added, so more staying effects can be obtained. Next, we show some demos of different effects of our experiments. In the first demo, we simulated the effect of drawing and dyeing with water-based dyes and oil-based dyes in fabric dyeing. Because oil-based dyes have high viscosity and are immiscible with water-based dyes, a clear and stable hooking effect is formed. In the traditional Chinese silk dyeing process, there is a dyeing process called spattering dye. The demo simulates this effect by setting the solubility of different dyes, solvent tension, and choosing different dyes. Various effects can be obtained. Demo 3 shows a tablecloth full of fast food, all kinds of food, ketchup, ice cream, soda water, etc. were dropped and finally formed a tablecloth full of various stains. In the future, we will still focus on the study of stains and fabric diffusion. One of the interesting points attracts us. When the stain encounters a fabric with a more complex pile or three-dimensional weave structure, how to simulate the diffusion effect of the stain. Thank you for listening. Now everyone can ask questions about this research.